As part of our Young South Africans with a Difference series, I'm joined by a social entrepreneur who puts our environment first. Welcome, Lisa Cool.
Thank you for having me.
Tell me about EcoSmart Groups and what your main objectives are.
What we do is we manufacture items out of waste materials. So either materials that are recycled or materials that cannot be recycled, what we call upcycling. And what we do is we try to stay away from things like craft items, because there are a lot of companies, small concerns who manufacture bags and pencil cases and a whole lot of different things, whereas we focus on the raw materials. So a fiber that we use, or a fabric we use quite a lot, is PVC, which is a type of vinyl, which is actually a fantastic raw material because it's so sturdy and the quality is so good. So if we were to buy it, sort of the virgin equivalent, if you want to call it that, we would probably pay about 150 to 200 Rand a meter, but because we're getting that for free, we can make it into something else with the same type of quality, but just changing the look and feel a little bit.
And how was this idea born, and why the waste industry?
Well, what actually happened is I was consulting into public sector, so as a management consultant, and I came up with the idea of designing a recycling bin in my spare time. And so that took off and the product really sold. And then I started getting interested in terms of what actually went in the recycling bins. And I was involved with all the waste industry, so the governing bodies of PET, Petco, which is your Coke bottles, things like that, SAVA, the Plastics Federation, and they would always challenge me to use their raw materials to make something, especially the materials that couldn't be recycled. So like PVC, where there's actually a nylon mesh, in the PVC you can't actually separate the item, so that goes to landfill where it lines the bottom of a dam and you never see it again, but it's got to go somewhere. And again, perfect raw material to use for something else.
And is this a profitable venture? I mean, considering the fact that you don't really buy your material.
No, it is a profitable venture. I think, where people get confused is, what is social entrepreneurship? So traditionally, in people's heads, social entrepreneurship has been sort of us little do-gooders who, run around and make a small amount of profits, and our main objective is, the environment or, social needs in the scheme of things. And I think what's happened in the last year and will keep on happening is that, this international perception of social entrepreneurship is changing. So it's really become quite profitable in certain instances to solve some of society's biggest problems and be profitable at the same time. So gone is that definition of yes, we are all little do-gooders and tree huggers and all that sort of jazz, but the people who are making the most impact are realizing that there is profit in solving these specific issues.
And I mean, you also need capital to solve these social issues, right? So how did you generate capital to start your EcoSmart Group?
Well, what happened was, because it's actually not a capital-intensive business, it's because your raw materials can be your major cost, and we get that for free. So our major cost is actually our labor cost. So in part of my do-gooding, so I have a tree-gooder section and I have a do-gooder section. And the do-gooder section is really job creation. So what happens is our labor cost is huge, because when we get these raw materials, they're not in a state that we can just sort of spin out a product. So we have to clean them, we have to cut them, there are a number of things we have to do until we get it into a product that is, available for resale. So our major cost is the labor, but then, that enhances the job creation element. And of course, the labor is variable. So at the end of the day, my staff get paid for what they make. I don't have to pay, I've obviously got set overheads, but it's not as high as if it was a virgin raw material business where I have to buy these materials up front.
And I mean, you're very passionate, it seems you're very passionate about employment and that sort of stuff, but who are you working with, and what kind of skills are they gaining from the product? Yeah.
Well, they gain a variety of skills. I mean, from a very basic level of just speaking English properly. I mean, we sit in we have various little workshops. Our primary residence, shall we call it, is with an NGO called Out of the Box. And you know, we have a whole lot of different personalities involved, and of course, you know, I speak English and I can throw in the odd Zulu Xhosa word. Don't ask me to do it now because you know, I'll defeat that object. But you know, the reality is that everybody has to speak English, and they have to speak, you know, English to each other, to myself, to suppliers, and all of that. And that for me is so valuable, is that, you know, people learn that skill of English. But you know, really, what happens is that people can learn. You know, if they come into the enterprise, then they obviously learn about recycling, sorting, you know, the business of recycling. And we can take people from, you know, I had a fantastic candidate last year who started, you know, washing my billboards. And, you know, you recognize the potential in these people. Not everybody, but some people are really, you know, have this, you know, not so hidden potential. They just haven't been given a shot yet. So you take that person on and you're able to mentor them, teach them computer skills, you know, really get them to start doing things, you know, inventory, stock takes, invoicing. That's all really life skills. And, you know, I think for people to grow their self-confidence is huge, you know, because they haven't been exposed to these kind of things. So between, you know, English, life skills, you know, various technical aspects, these people are able to move forward and certainly have the confidence, you know, if they leave me, to go into the workplace and be able to communicate, because they've been treated, you know, with respect on our side, and, you know, they've got the confidence to do that.
And currently, what products are you producing from recycled material?
We produce a variety of products. Our cash cow at the moment actually is producing for corporates. So they will give us their billboards, and they'd want them made into something that you know, could basically be a promotional gift and something like that. You know, we do, you know, functional items. So we've done a Giza blanket. You know, we're looking at a product made out of tires.
Wow, a Giza blanket.
A Giza blanket. So that was, again, a project we worked with. You know, I worked with the Disabled Project. I worked with one of my projects. We worked with recycled materials. But the problem with that product is we haven't found a distribution outlet for it. So, you know, it's all very well, you know, coming up with a fantastic product, and I feel like I've come up with fantastic products. But the reality is that can those products sell? I mean, it's you know, visually it looks great, but can we get into the right distribution channel?
Just tell me about what sort of material you'd use for something like your Giza blanket.
So what we used for that is we used post-industrial polypropylene waste, and that's basically chip and peanut packets. We have to use the post-industrial waste because we don't have the facilities to clean and bond the chip packet. So we won't use your used chip packet. What we would use is a lot of companies, and it's a terribly wasteful exercise, if they produce, let's say, Simba chips and in beef, argument's sake, and this chip packet comes out with the wrong brown, or the Simba logo is in the wrong yellow or red or whatever it is they'll produce a ton of this, argument's sake, and they can't actually use it. So there is quite a lot of waste that's generated just in the corporate, in the branding market, some of which can be recycled, some of which can't be recycled, some of which we can't use either. So, you know, there's so many different, you know, compounds that are used in plastic that we really have to test every bit of waste to see specifically if this project binds together, which, you know, we require to heat seal strips together to create sheets that we can then use to roll over this Giza blanket. So in that specific product, it was polypropylene foil waste. It was recycled PET, which is your Coke bottles, which is actually already available in the market as an insulation for houses, for roofs and things like that. And then we used actually old telecom building wraps to do the binding.